The CCAFS program is a flagship of GRA capability building that focuses on mitigation of all agricultural greenhouse gases, which is why you have such diversity among you. And it's a joint initiative of CCAFS and also of the GRA since 2017. So CRADS actually built upon the previous CLIF program, which CCAFS had set up, established in 2011, and the CLIF program really laid the foundation for the CRADS program. The GRA initially got involved with additional funding and additional human resources to support and grow the program. And yeah, it's really nice to be able to say that collectively we've grown the CCAFS program to what it is today. And we're really proud to say that we've observed increasing respect, recognition and visibility for you all as CCAFS scholars and scientists in the international climate change community. So this has been demonstrated through increasing competitiveness for both research hosts and applicants for the CCAFS program. We're really proud to be able to offer increasing opportunities for you as well, workshops, participation in global events, networking with leading scientists and other policymakers, that sort of thing. And we love to hear from you with any ideas that you have for us as well. So as you all know, the purpose of CCAFS is more than just a scholarship. Yeah, so the networking opportunities and exposure to technical expertise and equipment are very important for each and every one of you as early career scientists and as you move into positions of leadership in academia and policy. But furthermore, you have this kind of beautiful opportunity to experience another culture, another academic system, and also another language. Finally, to be an international ambassador for your culture and for your country internationally. So the network of young scientists that you're now all a part of means that you're able to collaborate across regions, across disciplines, and also connected with the CCAFS and GRA networks early on in your career. During the time that I've been involved with CCAFS, the number of scholars has grown significantly. We now have 124 alumni, and you can see across the 4 rounds an increasing diversity in terms of nationalities, host institutes, and host countries. Our alumni by geographic region, we have 45 people that their nationality is in the Latin American and Caribbean region, 64 whose nationality is one of the African countries, 10 from one of the Asian countries, and 5 from other countries around the world. By gender, we have 41% female scholars and 59% male. Yeah, so just to finally say thank you to everyone, I feel really passionately about CCAFS. I'm really certain that the research you're all doing and the connections that you've formed will aid the transition to lower emission primary production in developing and developed countries. And I also want to take this opportunity to say that as my role with the GRA shifts more international inventory capacity building, which is where my background and skill set lies, please don't be strangers. Please feel free to contact me anytime in a personal and professional capacity, and I'll still be involved in the background of CCAFS moving forward. So thanks everyone. I'm just going to hand to Katja, who hasn't had the opportunity to speak yet, and she will be able to tell you a little bit more about her background and the way in which her previous work experience might align with anything that you need from her as one of the coordinators as well. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Veronica. So yeah, hi everyone. My name is Katja. I'm kind of working behind the scene on the slide today, so that's why I'm not showing my face too much and my voice either. But thanks for giving me an opportunity to tell a bit about myself. My background, as Veronica mentioned, is in science communication. I have a degree in political science and in sustainable development, and I worked with the Stockholm Environment Institute before, working on different ways of communicating science to different audiences to increase understanding and uptake of science messaging. And I really hope that to continue working with that, but with you all, we're going to develop hopefully a series of webinars and courses for you to improve those who are interested to improve your science communication skills, improve writing and videos and policy briefs, hopefully coming up with some creative and fun ways of communicating your science. So anyone, even your grandmother or your little niece, can understand what you work with and what you're trying to change. So yeah, thanks very much. And I look forward to working with you all over the upcoming year. Over to you, Veronica.
Thank you very much, Katja. It's really great to hear about your skill set, and I think that's going to be really valuable for both us on the coordination team and for our wider Cliff Grads network. And I would just like to thank Hazel as well, both for the introductions and for giving that history, but also for all of your hard work in our Cliff Grads program. I know that you've been a wonderful coordinator, and there's much love for you and much sadness to have you less involved in our coordinating, but it will be great to have you leading more inventory work and being able to connect with you with that work going forward. So we're really excited for you, but sad to see you maybe taking less of a role in our Cliff Grads network. Now I would like to play the presentation from our first presenter, Lucy. Lucy Mindu is a round 2 Cliff Grads alumni from Zimbabwe who was hosted by Ilri in Kenya. So thank you, Lucy, for preparing that presentation. And if Katja, you could play that now, that would be amazing.
Greetings to you all. My name is Rangairai Lucy Mindu. I'm from Zimbabwe. I benefited from the Cliff Grads Research Day program and around 2. I was hosted by CGIR's Ilri Kenya Mazingira Center. My supervisors were Dr. Lutz Marbold and Sonia Leitner. The title of my PhD is Environmental Pollution Risk Posed by Cattle Crows and the Effect of Improved Management in Smallholder Farming Systems of Zimbabwe. My work fell under the Sustainable Livestock Systems project at Ilri. The project focused on GHG emissions under improved rangeland management, among other things. The project assessed greenhouse gas emissions from cattle enclosures, or bomas in Swahili, maintained in one location for a short time. Thick manure deposits end up as bare, unproductive patches and sources of nutrient translocation, including greenhouse gas emissions in rangelands. We therefore sampled manure, gaseous emissions, as well as soils within bomas, using the undisturbed savanna as the control for close to a year. We found out that short duration bomas reduce greenhouse gas emissions relative to traditional long duration bomas. However, short duration bomas still stimulate emissions, especially nitrous oxide, relative to undisturbed grasslands. We also noted that there is greater mineral enriching in fast rotating bomas when compared to the undisturbed savanna grassland. We are at an advanced stage of preparing a manuscript for publishing summarizing these findings. And we hope that more work will be done to develop benefits that can be derived from short duration bombers. Here are the highlights of my research stay in Kenya. Everything was great. I had great mentors who are available, supportive, and knowledgeable with great experience in their field. I had great capacity development opportunities, great peers to learn from and interact with, great research community with great lab facilities and great networks, things that I had never had access to. Yes, there were challenges. For example, at one moment there was an FMD scare, foot and mouth disease scare, but this was quickly rectified and work continued, although sampling was affected for a short period of time. Finally, I just want to highlight that the lesson that I took away from Kenya was that there's no substitute for experience. The GRADS Research Stay program was an invaluable mentorship experience, and for that I'm grateful to the program and to my supervisors, to my peers, and to my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucy, for that presentation. That was really wonderful to hear from you about your experiences. Although I'm very sad to hear about your mother during that time, I hope that you and your family have had time to heal from that together. We will now move on to our next presentation from Y Kuo, around 3 alumnus from Vietnam, who is hosted by ERI in Vietnam as well. Thank you very much, Y Kuo.
International GRA Research Institute Vietnam Office, and the title of my project is Assessing Low Emission Rise. Hello everyone, my name is Y Kuo. I come from Vietnam, and my sleep gas host organization is International GRA Research Institute Vietnam Office, and the title of my project is Assessing Low Emission Rise, Push and Pull Factors through Analysis of the Policy and the Markets in Vietnam. The purpose of this study is to investigate the Vietnamese consumer preferences and the willingness to buy for rice, characterized by sustainability and health certification labels, by conducting a choice experiment. This study's results are used in developing an understanding of the value of the food labels to consumers. This study can robust the added value for rice with attributes related to environmental, social, and health aspects. Selected attributes in this study included low emission, eco-friendly, ethically produced, low glycemic index, and price. The low emission certified rice claims a reduced carbon footprint, which is beneficial for the global environment. The eco-friendly certified rice claims to meet the strict pesticide regulation, making it better for the local environment. The certified ethically produced rice claims that it meets safe and fair working conditions, so it is better for the people producing rice. The certified low glycemic index rice claims a slower release of the energy to keep blood sugar level more stable. The price levels were set according to the market value for the high quality Vietnamese long grain foreign rice, and for increasing rice level at 10%, 20%, 40%, and 60% above the standard market rice. It is an example of the choices. From alternative A, we have the bucket ride with low emission and eco-friendly certification, and the price for this is 24,000. In alternative B, we have the bucket ride with the ethically reduced and the low glycemic index, and the price of this bucket ride is 22,000. In the static code, it is the bucket ride with the no certification, and the price is 20,000. The consumer can consider between the alternative A, alternative B, and static code. About the data collection, we conducted a choice experiment with 410 consumers at Sen City, Cần Thơ City, Vietnam from September to October 2020. It is the result of the mixed logic model. The coefficient of low emission, eco-friendly, ethically reduced, low glycemic index were positive and significant at 1%. The coefficient of price was negative and significant at 1%. Based on the result of the mixed logic model, we can estimate the willingness to buy. Consumers were willing to pay more for the premium long-range fragrance guys that were certified low emission, eco-friendly, ethically reduced, and low glycemic index. The price premium for the low emission rice were 28%, for eco-friendly is 52%, for ethically reduced were 51%. For low glycemic index, it is the highest value. Consumers were willing to pay 66% premium compared to the plain bucket rice. For output of the project, we have two presentations. The first presentation is consumer references and the willingness to buy for sustainable rice chains in workshop branding and the business model for sustainable rice production. The second presentation is the marketing sustainable rice in Vietnam, the consumer references and the willingness to buy. It is presented in the VinSat project workshop. We also have the two manuscripts. The first manuscript, the influence of the climate change knowledge on consumer valuation of the sustainably produced rice in Vietnam, we submit to the Journal of Clean Production. The second manuscript, it is also the key manuscript, the consumer references for sustainability and the health certification labels on rice in Vietnam. We intend to submit in Journal of the Sustainable Production and Consumption. For key learnings and benefits from my research study, I have opportunities to attend the training workshop of IRRI Vietnam, the cost-benefit assessment of the mitigation option in dry production of Vietnam, and I can work and learn with the scientists in IRRI Vietnam, Dr. Ole, Dr. Katie, Dr. In. And I learn many things from them, including the knowledge, skill, and I also a chance to attend another project, the role of the irrigation governance on the impact of the alternative wetting and drying technology in An Giang Province. I think that Sleep GRADS Fellowship is an excellent opportunity for me to learn and enhance my experience in the scientific research. This fellowship improves and enriches my knowledge and skill to be more competent as a lecturer and researcher, and it enriches my capacity to understand, investigate, and implement low emission development and build my research skill in the field of greenhouse gas mitigation in agricultural system. Thank you everyone for listening my presentation.
Thank you very much, Igu, for that wonderful presentation. It sounds like you had some really interesting results and some great outputs and opportunities that you were able to be a part of during your stay. So now we will be having our first breakout session. We'll be putting you into random groups for about 10 minutes with a 30-second warning before the group closes. So what I would like you to ask each other, if possible, but I'm sure you have lots of questions, is first, please introduce yourselves, give a bit of information about where you are from, your host institute, or the institute where you work, what you do for your research, why you like it, and why you think it's important. So we'll now be putting you into those groups of about 4 or 5, and I look forward to hearing back from you all soon. Welcome back everyone to our main session. I hope that you had a great time seeing one another and being able to chat to one another. I know that COVID has made things difficult for all of us in the past couple of years. So it's really nice to be able to meet some of you face to face and for you guys to be able to see each other again or to meet each other for the first time. So now we have another presentation. We're hearing from Baoen Zhang, who is a round 2 student who was hosted in Germany by the Tunen Institute. So welcome, Baoen.
Yes, so please show my slides. Okay. Hello everyone. I'm born from China. I really appreciate this opportunity to share my experience with you today. I was hosted by Tunen Institute of Climate Smart Agriculture and supervised by Dr. Reinhard Weil. The project is modeling pH effects on direct nitrous oxide emissions from agricultural soils through complex stable isotope labeling. And this project matches well with my PhD project, so I applied the CCAFS with great excitement. Okay, let's move next slide. Okay, thank you. You can maybe click 2 times. Yes. So nitrous oxide, also known as long-lived greenhouse gas, which contributes 7% of total radiative forcing, and soil contributes nearly 6% of anthropogenic N2O emissions. And identification is one of the most important N2O production process. Recent findings indicated that high pH could decrease the product ratio of denitrification and increase the denitrification rate. However, it's still unclear how about its effect on the net amount of N2O emitted from soil. Moreover, the nitrate concentration could also affect the denitrification ratio. So the purpose of this research is to quantify the impact of pH management and the nitrate level on denitrification process and the product ratio under defined conditions. Okay, next slide. Thank you. Yes. So because of the high background dinitrogen concentrations in the atmosphere, so to quantify the dinitrogen flux accurately, we conducted this experiment with an online incubation system and combined with 15 labeling techniques. Okay, next, thank you. Maybe you can click 3 or 4 times. Thank you. Okay. So our results proved the hypothesis that the product ratio of denitrification is both sensitive to pH level and the nitrate level, but unexpected that the medium pH have lowest product ratio and the lowest N2O fluxes under 2 nitrate levels. Our results might be helpful to establish climate smart pH regulation and fertilization management practice to mitigate N2O emissions. Okay, now let's come to the key learnings and benefits. I think these pressure training and research opportunities during my break at Tunen are meaningful for me. For example, I was trained to conduct complex 15 labeling experiments and to analyze both the GC data and isotopic data correctly. These skills are really helpful for me to conduct further isotopic experiments after I returned to China, and the results from these experiments improved my PhD thesis greatly. This very also broadened my horizons and gave me some inspiration on climate smart agriculture practices and policies. Last but not least, we have established collaborations and completed several other experiments with my host institutes. Okay, let's come to the last part. Thank you. So before I came to Germany, I discussed deeply with the host researchers about how to realize the project. We also write some other interesting scientific questions related to the project to explore the possibility of collaborative research. This research also provides us precious opportunities to interact with your host researchers and experience different cultures. For example, we celebrate Christmas and the Chinese New Year together, watch soccer match, and we often have barbecue together. So of course, these activities left me pleasant memories and established close personal friendship. Moreover, attend the participant the seminars, conferences, and trainings that will be organized by your host institution is also a good way to learn something new. For example, we visited the Hanover University near my institute. We visited the Hanover International Agricultural Machining Fair. This really broadened my horizons. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Bowen. That was really great to hear. Again, it sounds like you had some really great research experiences, but it was also wonderful to hear about all of the activities that you got up to as a part of your research visit. So lastly, we will be having our final presenter, who is Sara Salazar, who is from Colombia. She was a round 3 student who recently finished her stay in CIAT in Colombia. So welcome, Sara.
Thank you, Veronica. I am very happy to be here and sharing my experience in CIAT. My name is Sara Valencia Salazar. I am from Colombia. My CCAFS GRA host institution and country was CIAT International Center of Tropical Agriculture. And my PhD is a doctorate in science in ecology and sustainable development. I am doing my PhD in Mexico. And the title of my thesis was is Use and Enteric Methane Mitigation Potential of Forest Species of the Mexican Tropic. Next slide. So my research project main objective was to identify tropical forest species in southern Mexico and to evaluate their potential for mitigating enteric methane in vitro and in vivo trials. And for the identification of species, the cultural importance that these had for livestock producers in southern Mexico was considered. These species were mostly legumes and contain secondary metabolites, which can modify ruminal microbiome and fermentation parameters, contributing in this way to a reduction in enteric methane emissions. So among the methodologies used that I was able to carry out was the in vitro gas production technique and quantification of methane from incubated samples, bromatological analysis of forages, quantification of volatile fatty acids in liquid chromatography, and quantification of condensed tannins from samples of forage trees. This is basically the things I did in the lab. Next slide. So, and I'm going to talk more about my experience in CIAT and my project. So in addition to my visit and laboratory work, I was able to collaborate and be trained in other projects and trials of the Tropical Forage Group. One of the projects, it was Code for Life, developed with the University of Glasgow and Aberystwyth. The objective of this project was to increase the use of forage-based feed resources by livestock farmers in Colombia and to improve production efficiency, reduce the environmental impact of livestock farming, and increase the economic returns to the farmers. So in this project, continuous behavior monitoring, quantification of overall activity, and identification of rumination and eating behavior was carried out. This was done using silent Hertzman scholars. And additionally, during my stay, I contributed to the elaboration of the protocol of a project financed by the fertilizer company GRA. And the objective of this other project was to evaluate the nutrient use efficiency in Urucloa humidicola and animal response under different fertilization strategies in grazing conditions in the Colombian tropical savanna. And one of the specific objectives of this project is to identify fertilization plans that increase productivity and reduce nitrous oxide emissions. So I got involved in other projects. Additionally, one of the activities proposed by Dr. Jacobo for the GRADS scholarship was to make a visit to Ireland, to the CCAFS, that's the Agriculture and Food Development Authority, to be trained in the extraction and sequencing of DNA from ruminal fluid samples that were obtained in one of my experiments that were carried out in Mexico. So by the end of last year, I took some samples of the cattle that were fed the tropical forage species that I selected for my experiment. However, due to the pandemic, this trial had to be postponed and the visit to Ireland also had to be canceled. However, my supervisor, Jacobo Arango, has been very supportive, and we kept in contact with the research in CCAFS over the past year and also this year. So we were able to agree to send the ruminal fluid samples from Mexico to Ireland, and they would take care of the processing and be sending the results to us. So this was one of the alternatives we had due to the pandemic, and still be working on the things we had programmed. My visit to CIAT initially was scheduled for the second semester of 2020, but due to the COVID-19, one of my doctoral thesis experiments had to be postponed. So therefore, well, my stay took place this year. However, during last year, during the pandemic from last year, we were in contact, well, Dr. Jacobo and I and other researchers and GRADS scholarship students for the writing and publication of the article Role of Secondary Plant Metabolites on Enteric Methane Mitigation in Ruminants in Frontiers in Veterinary Science. Additionally, I contributed to the December 2020 issue of the Inventories and NDC Network newsletter. And in June, we submitted the second article to Frontiers, also in vitro methane mitigation potential of foliage of 3 species mixed at 2 levels with a tropical grass. So it was an atypical year due to the quarantines and confinements due to the pandemic, a situation that affected the work plan and proposed activities, especially the visit to Ireland, for which I had great expectations for the cultural and academic exchange. In the same way, the dates of the visit to CIAT were also affected, which is why it was carried out the beginning of this year. And also, while I was in CIAT, the national strike started, and Cali was one of the cities that was most affected. So I had to stay like a month in my apartment. I couldn't go to CIAT, so that was very difficult. And I have many challenges. Next slide. Finally, well, I want to thank the GRADS program, CIAT, and Dr. Jacobo Arango for the support provided to carry out the activities that will allow the completion of my doctoral thesis. Without the funding, expansion of networks and knowledge that I was able to access through this academic opportunity, it would not have been possible to achieve the objectives set out in my research work. So thank you all, and thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Sara. That was such an interesting presentation, just like all of our other presenters were. It is such a shame that you weren't able to go to Ireland on your exchange. But like I said to you earlier in our breakout rooms, I am glad that you had some other opportunities you could work on during the pandemic. So I would just like to once again thank all of our presenters. It was really wonderful to hear from you. So we now just have some time scheduled for everyone to ask questions to our presenters. Please remember to either use the raise your hand feature or use the chat box. I did see that we had some questions already from, I see Lucy and Titus have already been discussing, but for Kwong, Iku, from Adnan, can you tell us how the rice was low emissions and what was the sowing method, either direct sowing or in puddled soil? As for Kwong, Iku? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, yeah. For about low emission, because for the recognize this attribute, because my research, the methodology is the choice experiment. That's why the attribute is so important. To recognize this attribute, I have to conduct the focus group discussion with the expert in this field and recognize the low emission, eco-friendly, ethically reduced, and low glycemic index. For the low emission, the meaning of the low emission in here is we have in the GRADS, in the bucket rice, we have the certification non and with certification and non-certification, and the meaning of the low emission label here is reduce the carbon footprint, so it is better for the global environment. In addition, we also have the eco-friendly. The eco-friendly label here, the meaning is meet the strict pesticide regulation, so it is better for the local environment. And low emission, we focus on the global environment. For the eco-friendly, we focus on the local environment. Yeah, that's my answer. Because because my field in economics, that's why I don't focus too much about the techniques. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Did we have any other questions? If not, I have a question for Lucy and for Bowen. How did you manage the cultural differences on your exchanges to different countries? Maybe start with Lucy.
Oh, okay. I didn't experience much of a struggle because in terms of language, a few words in Kiswahili are compatible to my vernacular, my local language here. So even again, people were very conversant. They were very good in the English. The accent was not bad. It was better than mine, so we could communicate easily. There were not that many challenges as far as culture was concerned. Thank you.
Bowen?
Yes, I agree with Lucy. Maybe there's some different culture between China and Germany. How to say it? With the help of researchers in our group, so adapt the environment quickly. Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear. I see another comment from Titus. Thank you. Sara, thank you for the presentation and congratulations on your work. Perhaps it's worth it to share your experience about working on publications or waiting for the chance of research visit. And hopefully it will inspire other fellows who postponed the departure because of the pandemic. And I can confirm that many people have had to postpone their trips. So if you could give us advice, Sara, about how to work on publications while waiting for the Cliff Grads experience, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Titus.
Yeah, well, I had my visit this year finally, but last year, since we didn't have any data and we couldn't like do much because the labs closed and everything. So the publication we made that year was a review article. So you can use that time when you can't get any data from your experiments and think of writing a review article. I think that's a good idea. It was a really good job, and we had other Cliff grad students working there.
Cool. I think that's a really good idea. And we have another question for you, Sara, which was, how did you extract ruminal fluid for the DNA analysis?
Well, in Mexico, in the lab where I was working there, we had ruminal cannulated cattle. So we had 6 cannulated cattle, and we worked on 3x3 replicated Latin square design. So after the cattle came out of the respiration chambers where we measured methane production, we extracted the ruminal fluid from the cannulas.
Great, thank you very much. Oh, I see another comment from Aliyu. Also, the in vitro emission analysis briefly enlightens us as to how it's done. Oh, and you got the, sorry. I can't, I've got another question from Glory. I think it's easier to plan when you're not in the middle of your PhD. Question for Sara. What stage are you in your PhD? And if it is still on, did your Cliff grads work directly contribute to your PhD? I think that's something that we could ask all of our presenters. How did the Cliff grads work directly contribute to your PhD? And we'll start with Sara.
Well, I was able to take samples from the in vivo experiment I made I carried out in last year, by the end of last year, because I planned it it was going to start like in April 2020, but it got canceled until September. So those samples I got from that experiment from the feed stuff and the orts and everything in there, and also ruminal samples for volatile fatty acids contents production. I took them to CIAT, to Colombia, and I was able to do all the laboratory work there. So it was very important because these analyses in Mexico, they have a high cost, and I didn't have much funding for my project. That's the truth. I really didn't have any form to do that in Mexico. It was going to be really hard. So I talked to my supervisor, and I asked him if I could take the samples to CIAT, and he said, okay, bring them here and you'll run them here. So it was very important, the Cliff grads work to the contribution to for my PhD.
Great, thank you. Perhaps, Bo, I see you're already unmuted. Could you also answer how your work contributed to your PhD?
Yes, of course. When I was in China, I studied some soil taps to see the effects of soil tap on natural oxide emissions. And the most important part is to explain the mechanisms how soil pH drive the N2O emissions from soil. So Cliff grads give me this opportunity to study and completed some research in China and have get some results from the collaboration experiments. Yeah.
Cool, thank you very much. We'll go to Igu and then Lucy, and then I see Aliyu has his hand up to ask a question as well. So Igu, could you please tell us about the Cliff grads experience in your PhD?
I can talk because in my BDs, I work with the International Research Institute in Philippines. After that, from the CCAFS, I can work with the IRI Vietnam office. Means that when you work in the BDs, you have the two supervisor. But when you have the opportunity with the CCAFS, you can help the other scientists can give you the idea for about the research. It is the first. And the second, after you work with means that after you finish your work in the CCAFS with your host institute, and they recognize your ability, and they also invite me to become the consultant in 6 months. That's why I think CCAFS is a good opportunity for me to become the lecturer and researcher. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. That sounds like lots of great opportunities and ideas for research came from your experience with Cliff Grads. Lastly, Lucy, before we get to Aliyu.
Well, like I said, my experience at Ilri Kenya was great in that Mazingira, which means environment, they have a state-of-the-art lab with GC facilities. And for my PhD work, I was affected by just failing to access a lab to do those analyses. And you know, if you don't have a lab to do the analysis, you cannot start collecting samples because your vials and everything should match the method of analysis that would use. So apart from having the GC lab, the whole process of fabricating chambers for field measurements, I had exposure to static chambers, and now I can confidently design. I've already designed for my PhD. Unfortunately, I was affected by the COVID pandemic, and of course, also limited funding availability. It has kind of affected my work. But being in contact with Mazingira Lab, I attend their lab meetings. I keep learning. That's why I was so grateful about peers and collaboration and interaction with them. I'm still in touch with the supervisors. They're still contributing even to my planning in terms of my PhD work. Because of the expertise that they have in quantifying greenhouse gases and systems for measuring, for doing field measurements. I also managed to get support from Mazingira Lab. I can send my analysis to them for analysis, and they will also facilitate the process of preparing files. So yes, I was also affected with respect to funding. I think I've been in contact with well, how is your name running away? With Cliff Grads on this, the secretariat. So now I am at least in a position to do my fieldwork with confidence, and I have a lab to analyze my samples. And I have senior scientists to guide, which is great.
Thank you. I think that the theme coming through there was that there's really important things like the practical resources and the access to labs and equipments and methodologies, but also that having these connections through the Cliff Grads program has been really helpful for generating ideas, but also for getting feedback on projects and being able to work with some really interesting people. So thank you all for answering that. And Aliyu, now we will move to you. I think that this might be our last question. We're a bit over time. So Aliyu, please take it away. Aliyu, you're on mute.
Yeah, hello?
Hi.
All right, yeah, thank you, Veronica. My question goes to Sarah. It looks like I have interest in our project, being an animal scientist myself. And Sarah, you have done a fantastic work. I'm really, really impressed with your work. I want to ask, I just always hear about people saying they extract ruminal fluid, I don't know what's the exact way. Is it that you make the animal regurgitate or you inject them or whatever? How do you extract ruminal fluid? And then secondly, the in vitro emission of analyzing the forages you want to use, the emission rate through in vitro method. How do you always do that? Is it that you take the forage and put them inside the tube together with some microorganisms and then check the emission rates, or what's the method? Because I'm looking at replicating this type of experiment in Nigeria, since we are another tropical country. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to give you like a brief answer, but I'm going to leave my email here so you can write to
Fantastic.
me.
Yeah.
And yeah. And I can share some pictures and articles that you can use. Well, in my case, okay. In my case, I got ruminal fluid with from cannulated cattle. For the in vitro gas production technique, I use also cannulated cattle. O sea, well, they have like a cannula in the rumen, so we can open it, put our hand through the rumen and take the samples of the ruminal fluid. I have a video also I could share with you. After that, this samples of fluid and solid contents, we take them to the laboratory. We have to keep them through for 39 of the temperature. They have to be warm for the microorganisms to stay there, to don't die for the experiment. And we put them in different tubes with other components, and we also put inside the bottles the samples of the forages. Like we use usually 1 gram in bottles, and we have to put them we have to keep the temperature according to the ruminal temperature too. So, and we make we take samples for the first day we take samples every 2 hours, like the first 12 hours, and then 24 hours and 48 hours we take samples of the gas produced in the bottles. And then in chromatography, we quantified the methane production from the bottles. Basically, it's what we do. But we use ruminal fluid from cannulated cattle.
Excellent.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Perfectly, it does answer it.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering all those questions. To our 4 presenters, again, thank you so much. It was so wonderful to hear from you and for you to answer the questions. I think that you gave a really good presentation and some really good answers to our questions. I'm just sad that we can't hear more from you, but unfortunately we're already running way over time on our event. So I will just quickly run through the supports available. If you could bring up those slides, please, Katja. And then we will probably miss out on our resources slides, but again, you guys, most of you should be aware of them, but feel free to reach out to us if you would like to know any more. So I just wanted to remind us all of the buddy system. All of you in our current rounds should have been paired up with an alumni from a previous CLIF GRADS round. These people are your cultural, academic, and social support. So they can share things like favorite hangouts, recommend favorite foods, give tips on language barriers, connect you with people that they might have known. And they are there to ask any questions that maybe you aren't comfortable asking to us. So that's a really great system. If you haven't contacted your buddy in a while, we really recommend that you get in contact with them and ask how they're doing, maybe tell them how you're doing as well. And I just wanted to also signal that we will be looking for buddies for round 5 of the CLIF GRADS program as well. So to our current alumni, if you're interested in that, please make sure to signal it on your report after your CLIF GRADS stay, or to get in contact with us again. Next slide, please, Katja. So maybe the new support that I just wanted to highlight is our Lumio platform. I think most people here will be on it, but this is the new platform rather than the WhatsApp, where we will be sharing relevant research opportunities, resources, events, successes, on all of the above. For example, I've posted on Lumio and sent out an email that maybe most of you will have seen about an upcoming event on Indigenous resilience to climate change through mitigation and adaptation. And they're looking for participants and speakers. So Lumio is a great way to keep updated with those kinds of events and to get in contact with us if you had any questions. If you're not on that Lumio platform, please feel free to email the Cliff Grads email account and I can add you as soon as possible. Again, just a reminder about the Twitter. Please follow the following people and pages and the Cliff Grads hashtag. I would also just like to highlight, please use that Cliff Grads hashtag that you can see on screen. So that's all capitals and no punctuation if you're talking about the Cliff Grads experience, just because it makes it easier for us to find your posts. Lastly, here's the Cliff Grads email. I think most of you will be familiar with it, but if you're not, please jot that down. Again, the email and the Lumio are the best ways to get in contact with me and Katja now. The WhatsApp group will still be there, but we would really prefer if you use that Lumio and email account. And next slide, please. Just again, a reminder, if you have any publications, as a result from your Cliff Grads experience, you must acknowledge CCAFS and GRA as well as your host institution and any donors. And for your reporting requirements for anyone who has yet to complete their stay, just at the end of your research, please provide us with a short summary, a reporting back on your training and research and your feedback for the Cliff Grads experience. This is due 4 weeks after your research stay completion. If you needed the template for that, again, please don't hesitate to email the Cliff Grads email or get in contact on Lumio. Always happy to help. Next slide, please, Katja. Yeah, and lastly, we just wanted to make sure that you guys are staying in contact with us. We love hearing from you about your career and your opportunities. It's always such a wonderful time hearing about the things that you've been doing during your Cliff Grads experience and after your Cliff Grads experience. And also please encourage your peers to apply as well. Your feedback is very valuable to us. So I'm just going to quickly hand over to Katja, who will be getting some feedback from you today using Mentimeter. Katja.
Thanks, Veronica. As Veronica presented some of the, well, most of the resources that we have so far developed and established for you for your help and support during your studies. And as I mentioned, also we will have a series of webinars and workshops for improving science communication, and also linked to general landmark events of this year, like the Conference of Parties and the Food System Summit that are coming up. But we are wondering if you have also any ideas of what is missing in the Cliff Grad program. What would you like to see more? And I made this Mentimeter session for you to contribute and to collect your feedback. So you can answer the poll using your phone as well as your computer. Let me just pull this up. So if you go to menti.com and then use the following number as a code to access the poll. So the code is 3392672. Once you log in, you will see the question again, but you also can see it on the screen. And if you just, when you have been doing your studies, doing your project work, meeting with people, if you thought, oh, I wish we would have had that in Cliff Grads, or if you were browsing, watching TV shows, or having fun with your friends, and also thought about any creative ideas, please log them in as well. And hopefully we will have more of your contributions coming up on the screen soon. As I said, you can use it with your phone as well as your computer if you just open a separate tab and go to mentee.com and use the code number to enter into the poll. I hope it's working. Let me know. I'm checking myself, I think. I can see that somebody wrote that they would like to see more workshops. Please note that each of you can submit as many answers as you have contribution for. So if you could clarify what kind of workshops, would you like them to be more on the topic of your research or on science communication to policy, or would you like to have workshops on how to present your research? Anything to clarify that statement, so we could tailor your experience a bit better. And also remember that you can go as crazy with your ideas as you want. Well, you know that it might not be possible to send everybody to space, but yeah, just be creative, and whatever you think that you would like to see of more and have more opportunities, and this will give us a good food for thought on how to develop this program. And it's great to see the answers finally starting to pop up. Live meetings after the pandemic, I think we're all dying for them. We're talking about them every meeting now, I think. Let's hope it's gonna happen sooner than we think it's gonna happen.
I will just say, I see more research and job opportunities for the PhD students that are finishing the course. I do think that's a really great idea, and we do hope to connect you with different opportunities as a part of the CCAFS GRADS program. I am just going to highlight the Lumio page again for that. We do post a lot of research and job opportunities on there. So if you need to get involved in that, please email me. But I agree, definitely more opportunities are always great.
I'm also very happy to see the response about the science communication. Of course, that's like a music to my ears, and I can't wait to dig into this more with you all. So thank you for submitting this responses and highlighting that it's important for you, and you would like to see more of that.
I agree. I think there's some really good ideas on here. I think a lot of the themes are around communications, science communications, and I see a lot of wanting conferences in person, and also the opportunities to share CCAFS GRADS research. I think that those are really wonderful ideas, and we do hope that we can provide as many opportunities as possible for everyone to be able to give a presentation like we heard from today. I am just mindful that we are well over time though, so thank you for your feedback, and please continue to contribute, but I think that we have to start rounding out this event. So I would just like to say thank you again to everyone for coming to this event and for engaging with us. It's so wonderful to meet you all and to see you face to face. I know that sometimes email can seem a little bit impersonal, so it's great to be able to actually talk to you. And And hopefully, like everyone has been saying, we can meet in person at some point after this pandemic has finally come to a close, hopefully at some point. Again, I would like to thank all of our presenters. So to Bowen, to Sarah, to Lucy, and to Igu, such wonderful presentations. It's so great to hear from you. And again, I hope that we can hear from many more of you in our webinars and workshops and conferences and all the wonderful things we're hoping to do in the future. And thank you to Katja, Hazel, Samiro as well, Sadie, to all of our coordinators in the Cliff Grads program. It's such a joy to work with you. And I'm glad to have all of the support coming in to this Cliff Grads family. And I would just like to thank you all for welcoming me and Katja into your Cliff Grads community. And I know that we both look forward to getting to know you all better and providing more opportunities to get together like this. So that kind of concludes our event. It's been great to hear from you all and to get all your questions. And I hope to see you all soon. Thank you so much again for coming.
Thank you very much. I'll see you all later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Nice to see you guys.
Nice to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you.
Bye. It was
Bye.
wonderful. Wonderful.